All right, so hello and welcome to Spotlight. We come to you from the Junkyard Cafe, and we have two guests that we are actually delighted to be able to introduce to them and to, of course, all of you. We are talking, first of all, about a very exciting film, and we're talking to two very delightful people, Gurinder Chadha, Huma Qureshi. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having us here.
So I have to start off by saying no one can accuse you of being short on ambition, right? Partition 1947. I mean, just again, a story of, and we're laughing about it, but it is the story of, or at least parts of, the greatest human migration that the world has seen. 14 to 15 million people. So I suppose my first question is, how do you begin?
The thing is, it's a story that is untold, the way I've told it.
Okay.
It's a story that most people don't know anything about around the world. Most people don't even know India was partitioned. And people who were there, whose parents or grandparents were there, don't really want to talk about it. So these were the reasons for me to say, no, we must talk about it.
Right.
And I need to shine a spotlight on it because it's my history. It affected my family directly, and it's the reason why I don't have an ancestral homeland. Because my ancestral homeland is Jhelum and Rawalpindi. So I can't go there. I can't get a visa to go there. So that
You've tried and have not been able
this
to.
This last year I tried to go there and I couldn't get a visa. I've been before, but in this current climate, I couldn't get a visa.
What then is the story that you're telling? I know that there is also an English version of it, which is called Viceroy's House. So a lot of it plays out from the point of view of Mountbatten.
But it's the same film.
Right.
The film you're seeing is
Yeah.
the same film. I prefer the Hindi. I mean, the Hindi trailer for me was so exciting. You should have seen me. I was jumping around my house. Me and Paul, my husband, were jumping when we saw the trailer. And I was like, like in Punjabi, because they got straight to the point. The point of the film is to say that the history that I was brought up with and the history that most people were brought up with on why partition happened is wrong. You know, there was a totally different agenda. I was brought up to be with the history that I was taught, which was that in 1947 the British had decided that they were going to leave. Not that Gandhi and the freedom fighters had brought them to their knees. Right. No, the fact that the British had decided to leave, and that once they made the announcement, we all started fighting with each other. Right. And because of the riots, Mountbatten had no choice but to divide the country and then leave. So that's the history that I've grown up with, and most people know. Yeah. But actually, that's not the truth at all. There was a whole other agenda going on beyond Mountbatten, and that is why I wanted to tell this story.
How did you come to this? Like, how did you discover this side?
I had always grown up under the shadow of partition, because, as I said, I always was aware growing up in London that I didn't have a village to go to that was my own, as it were. But in 2008, I did an episode of a BBC documentary called Who Do You Think You Are? Yes. which takes people on the
genealogic, right?
Genealogical, yeah.
Journey.
So I went back to my roots, as it were, for the first time, and we went from London to Kenya to India. India went to Hardwar. In Hardwar, we found my village Pandit under the peepali tree or something, and there I saw 12 generations of my family listed in these books, in these records. And there the Pandit told me exactly where my village was. And so we then went to Pakistan, and then we arrive at my town, and all of a sudden I'm overwhelmed because the whole town has come out to meet me, and everybody showers me with flower petals and say, welcome, you're our daughter, we're so glad you've come. And it was an incredibly moving experience. I was not expecting it at all. And then I couldn't find my grandfather's house, and so they said, you know, that we were searching and searching, and then I said, let's ask some old people. They will know, because my grandfather was very affluent and built a big house. And then I went to one and I said, Baba, you know, Uncle Ji, तुसी मेरे दादे नु जानते होगे? And he goes, no, बेटी मैं नहीं जानता. And I said, क्यों? You know, and he said, मैं 47 में आया था. And then I asked someone else, 47, 47, 47. Everyone I asked had no memory of before of my family, and they were all refugees who'd come from India to that place, and my family had upped and gone there. So it was at that moment, that precise moment, by the river Jhelum, with these old folks, that I decided I'm going to make a film about partition.
Did you feel when you were shooting, when you were, when you were part of this film, the sort of, I suppose, the emotional weight of this behind it, the extent of the investment?
Well, there was my own emotional weight I was carrying. I mean, considering growing up in India, one has this association with the partition. My mother's Kashmiri, so there's one half of my family. Oh, someone just fell after hearing that. Mum's from Kashmir, and I have one half of my family still very much living there. My mamoos and khalas and everyone in Kashmir. And my dad's from Delhi. So, and my grandfather, I think when partition happened, he had a big house in Delhi, and a lot of people started arriving from what is now Pakistan, and they didn't have a place to go. And my grandfather was the only relative that they sort of knew. I find this very painful, because I feel so much has happened in all these 70 years, and it's, I think, time for us to firmly put the past behind us and look towards rebuilding ties rather than sort of, and yet, yes, it's really sad, and I feel maybe creativity, maybe films, maybe music is one way to sort of bridge that gap, really. And so yeah, when I was working on this film, I knew what an important film this was going to be, what an important script it was, because when I read the script, to be honest, I didn't know what to expect, because a British-Indian co-production, a British Punjabi filmmaker making a film like this, you don't know where the loyalties are going to lie. Is this going to be a film that's going to sort of completely say, oh, the white men, came here, it's not really their fault, and, this is a savage country.
Sort of whitewash it, so to
yeah,
speak,
exactly, sort of whitewash it in that sense. Or was it going to be like a film that, an Indian filmmaker would make, which is a bit more jingoistic. So one didn't really know what to sort of really expect, but I had to say that I was blown by the script, because not only was it so beautifully researched and so well, written, it was so emotional, and I thought that if people, after watching this film, just get moved a little bit, by this whole problem that happened all these years ago, and even today, the world over, there's this big immigration crisis that happens, and we talk about us and the others in such heated terms. I feel it is a very timely film to be sort of a part of, and I love my character. I love the fact that she's strong, she's fierce, she has an opinion, she believes in this united India, which I sort of do as a person as well.
Very much so, yeah,
and for me, it was a treat to be able to play Alia on screen.
So yeah, so this is the thing, like, what is the film saying? Like, what is your, not to sort of put words in all of our mouths, I suppose, or whatever, but is there a takeaway that you're hoping? Thanks.
I think the point of the film is to say that look at the events around you when they happen, and look at the agendas. Why do things happen? Why are people divided? Why do people use hate? I'm not talking just about here. I'm looking at Europe.
Yeah.
I'm looking at
America.
Everywhere. Why are we, when Trump says something, what is his real agenda? When Putin says something, what is the agenda? In England, Theresa May, what is the real agenda? So I think what I'm saying is that for many years, people have believed that partition is about something to do with Jinnah, Nehru, Gandhi, the British, Mountbatten, in a very insular way. And what I'm showing you is that it was a global political decision which had far-reaching global effects, which are still being felt today in all parts of the world. The original geopolitics.
We tell you everything, but we don't tell you what. You have to watch the film for that one.
Tell you what, but when you watch it, it has tremendous resonance for today. And I think when I was talking earlier, I was reminded in Australia. I was at a screening in Australia recently, and at the end of the screening, a man put his hand up, and he was sort of in his 60s, I think, and very, very tanned, Gora. And he said, look, I want to tell you, I'm a Bondi boy, Bondi Beach. I was born there. I've lived there my whole life. And I've just spent the last hour crying through your film, he said, because, I don't know India. I don't know anyone in India, he said. But what made me so sad was the plight of the world and in my own country's border policies in Australia, So yes, partition happened is specific to here, but we see the refugee crisis globally. We see the reasons why this crisis is happening globally, and partition is actually a very modern thing, you know, if you, in many ways it's happening around us. Brexit is another example.
Your film was made, it was shot. Did it sort of seem, I suppose the word is, sort of prescient in any way, like when things were unfolding, when all the dramatic events of the last year?
Absolutely, because when we started making the film, Paul and I, when we started writing it, Obama was in the White House. We were all going, yes, we can. You know.
And look where we've come now.
Where we are now.
And there was no Syrian refugee crisis, you know. There were all the refugees on the border at Calais, you know, trying to come into Britain. But, and there was no Brexit, of course. So during the making of the film, so much changed. And when we were shooting our refugee scenes for the film, and we had rebuilt Purana Kila, if you like, refugee camp, we were shooting that with 1,000 extras. But on our phones, the news that was coming in
was the same images.
Was the same thing, refugees fleeing Syria. But that was the week when the little boy was found washed up on the beach, when the whole world changed their attitude towards Syrian refugees. So I was thinking, oh my God, I'm getting these actors to dress up as refugees,
and
1,000 of them.
What's happening to people?
And look what's happening right now. So that suddenly brought everything very present for us. But also, when I was editing, my editor is Italian, Valerio, very fine editor, very emotional editor, and he's married to an English woman. They have 2 children, and he would get very emotional during the cutting of the film, you know, and there'd be scenes that I would want to change or take out, and he would fight for them because they made him cry.
That's
you know, and I'd go, no, it's too much, it's too much. He'd go, no, Gurinder, are you mad? No, we have to keep this. So after every scene, he would get very upset, and if anyone gave notes or a producer gave notes, I would go, okay, that's a good point. He would go, are you mad? No. So he was playing that sort of role. And then Brexit happened.
Oh, God.
And being Italian, suddenly he was the refugee. Because he didn't know if he was going to be able to stay in England. What about his wife? What about his kids? So the picture he was cutting was totally
informed
him.
in a sense, all of that. How would you say? And again, now for you on set, like, how collaborative is this process? Like, there's an editor telling Gurinder, are you mad, you can't do this? For the actors, are they allowed similar liberties?
Well, yeah, I think so. Yes, absolutely. We argued about a lot of things, but you know, I think we both knew what was being done was for, you know, the film. So no, of course, it was a very collaborative process, and I think from day one, you know, I remember before we shot our first scene, Gurinder took me and Manish in a car, and she took us and showed us the whole location and said, this is what I want you to feel and believe, and you know, she sort of broke it down for us in a lot of ways, and she would allow for a lot of arguments. I don't think she really liked them at the time because she had so much on her plate. but I think it's a healthy people is like actors, but then I think as time went, I think everyone has to put in their bits because it's a film also as a cast. We were such a sort of inclusive cast. We had American actors and British actors and Indian Americans and some Indian from Bollywood, you know, like,
so we had to keep. I had to make sure everyone was in the same movie. But I think Huma brought a great intelligence to her role, you know, and her questions were always pertaining to her character with a lot of intelligence. And same with Manish, actually, you know, and Gillian Anderson and Hugh. I mean, everybody was. I mean, it's not easy making an ensemble.
No,
film,
I don't imagine it is.
But what's brilliant for a director is when the subject matter is so strong that each actor takes complete possession of their character and starts telling you what they feel their character should. I like that, you know, with actors. So, and then I can argue with that, but I think we never argued about the shape of the role. The only thing I think we had some disagreements was makeup.
Well, let's not go there. Let's not go there.
But
really.
In a refugee camp, would you have lipstick on?
All right, I've been a little selfish. There's still 1,000 questions I have to ask, and we're going to come back. So you have the mic, and you get to go first.
Hello everyone, my name is Sanchit Pandit. Actually, my question is to Gurinder ma'am. Ma'am, you're coming up with the movie Partition 1947. So this movie focuses on India-Pakistan partition. So it is really a delicate concept of the movie. So did you face any problem from the censor board?
Actually, no. And I was quite surprised, you know, because it is such a sensitive subject. But actually, you know, no. I mean, they had the script, you know, they read the script. when I first presented the script, when Mohan Singh was there. So his government first looked at the first draft, then we did a second draft. I met Mr. Modi, you know, told him about the film, what I wanted to do, and explained to him exactly the film that I've made. And he said, theek hai, you know, and I had a lot of support from the Rashtrapati Bhavan President's office for shooting there. And there are a lot of uncomfortable moments in the film, but actually I am very proud to say that I didn't have to change anything.